right? So first of all, this is a complete first for me, right? Like I've been trialing this whole podcasting thing and just seeing if I can reach out to people that are just, the goats on the timeline is how I would sort of put it, where I love seeing your stuff come by. It's a very, um, unique and cool vibe that you bring with your account on X. And so I'd love to kind of dig into that first is what do you think kind of sets you apart from the average account online, especially on X?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna quickly deflect and buy myself some time by saying thanks for having me on. I don't like. I'll never say no to something like this because for me, I like talking through my processes and understanding how I do things. So I get so many ideas from this. So like, of course, it's good for you, hopefully, and good for your viewers. But it's also good for your guests. Like, trust me, like maybe it's an ego thing, but I think for me, I'm looking at it as a opportunity to understand my own brain, my own mind, my own tendencies and processes more. So, um, yeah, grateful for the invitation. Um, so the question was, what separates me from, what do I believe separates me from other accounts? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's essentially what you're asking. Like, what's your USP, dude?
A little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I would say to start with, most of the people that are doing well out in this game, like the online, make money online space, to some extent, you could just call it. It's a bit of a bastardization to call it that, but that's really what it is the make money online space. I think a lot of these people are they what they've done is we all want to make money and be abundant and build great lives for ourselves, right? That's why we're doing it, and I think you should be playing to win. Um, in the end. But I think a lot of people get into the game before they actually have any kind of like life, um, or any kind of life experience, or any kind of fun stories, or like a character that exists before this personal brand thing. And I think what I bring to it is a very, you learn how to write, you learn how to communicate, you learn how to be more concise with your communication and more direct as well. And, there are ways to communicate more clearly. And in the end, what happens is sometimes people end up sounding the same. But what's the difference is it's like, what's the message behind the words? That's more important. I think what makes me different is not everyone vibes with it. But there's a lot of lived experience that isn't just from traveling and being a nomad. Like, that's not it. It's more like I've been through so many crazy experiences, like dark experiences, happy experiences, um, business. Like, I've actually got like some really crazy business experience as well, like being robbed, like $90,000, like that, which obviously means we had to make a lot more than that. So it's like I've got actual real make money online credentials that are also supported by these and have led to these crazy stories, coupled
Dang.
with being well traveled, actually enjoying my life and having a great group of friends around me, that really gives me this like perspective of, I think people will be like, yeah, I like to hang out with this guy. I don't just want to come and learn from him. Like, I want to know him. I actually want to be his friend, and I want to hang out with him. I want to build a real relationship with him. And I think that actually is what makes me different is I'm not for everyone, but hell, like a lot of these people on this game, dude, are just chasing the bag. And I had no problem with that. I'm chasing the bag too, but they actually have no social skills. And outside of being
Facts.
able to make money, they don't really have that full developed character. And I think, just from my experience and just the way I've chosen to live my life, I think I bring that to the game, and hopefully it comes through. But at the same time, I'm just trying to help people. So using it in a way that actually benefits people rather than saying, "Hey, look how interesting I am," or "Here's a crazy story." I'm actually trying to dumb a lot of it down to make myself more relatable. But at the end of the day, it's that relatability that comes from that experience that also is peppered and like flavored with like, I think this guy's lived a really interesting life, and I think he actually is pretty experienced in what I'm trying to achieve, and I think that's what I bring to it, dude. So yeah, I know you've probably got a response to that, but I'm always curious. Like, what would you say is the case for you as well?
I think that what you really touched on, and I think a few of those really stood out to me. The idea of character and the message. I think those were two things that you hit on as being very central. I think that's crucial. And just having a story, right, that people can really relate to. I think having those three, I think, is a really powerful kind of start and foundation. And I really resonate with that as well, where the longer I'm online, the more accounts and voices kind of move towards the mean average of content online, right? No, people aren't standing out. They say the same things in the same ways. And I think a lot of that does come from not having your own experiences, not having any real expertise, not having any stories, just being kind of a like a vanilla milk toast, not particularly interesting individual. And that's not a bad thing, but it's something you need to be aware of, right? Where if you're just trying to copy all these other people, there's not a ton that you have to go off as an individual. But when you go out there and you do crazy stuff, you move to Bali, you do whatever it is, then you have stories, you're more compelling, people will pay attention to you. So it's like, hey, there's something about what Dan is doing right now that I want in my life as well. And if your life is boring and you're just a vanilla character, then no one's really going to resonate with that, right? So that's some of what I'm thinking kind of based off of what you said. Now I'd kind of love to hear from you. Do you like the idea of like main character energy? I'm assuming you know what I mean when I say that. Do you kind of is that an idea that you agree with, resonate with? How does that kind of play out for you?
I do. I used to be a lot more about it. I used to be way more about it. And do you know what? Because I've been in the game a few years now, and I really lent on my personality being my strength. And when we say personality, we're talking about a few things. We're talking about story, the tonality. We're talking about the metaphors used. We're talking about the quirks and the weirdness, right? And I really lent into that, and that's how I really built my brand from being like just a me too to actually something that was people that stood out. Let's just say it stood out, and I grew. That's when I initially got my initial growth spurt and sort of came onto the scene. Um, and although I saw it as a way of, I'm using myself as an example. I've always wanted to be an example to people, and rather than telling people what to do, I'd rather show them what to do through myself. And what I realized is once I started doing that, people wanted to follow suit. And they mimic you. It's like little brothers, almost like, or little brothers, little sisters. They look at you and they go, "You're actually doing it. You're walking the walk. You're not just you're not just all talk. You're actually walking the walk." And so I think main character energy is like you're essentially like that leader, like you're being an example of what people want to do themselves but don't have the courage. And there's no amount of like shaming or bullying or like screaming at people that's going to make them move. It's more like they have to sell themselves. And I think when you are an example, people either sell themselves or they don't, and that's what creates the change. That being said, I've massively although I love using myself as an example, I've actually tried to, not consciously, it's just happened through a few things that have happened this year, dial back maybe like hey, look, it's all about me. And although I'm using myself here as a way to, share wisdom and so you can see yourself in me, I've started now actually not believing my own, not drinking my own Kool-Aid too much and actually being like toning it, not toning my content down, but like bringing myself down a level, being like, hey, look, there's being the leader and being like, hey, look, I'm out here doing this thing. Be like, I'm going to show you the way. And more like, hey,
Hmm.
I've done all this shit. You can go and look at that. It's all online. I'm actually down here on your level. Like, I want to be on your level because we're going to get better results. Like, you can't just copy me all day. Like, I need to get on your level and actually be a lot more human, a lot more. And I've always been like that, but actually bringing that to my brand is something I've been focused on. And I think the
Hmm.
word really is humility. I think the word is humility. So, main character energy, yes. But I think I wouldn't say it has an expiration date, but it's great for getting yourself attention and getting yourself, like getting people to believe in you. But once you have those people believing in you, I think you can only really retain people that are paying you, like paying clients. Let's bring it back to money, right? If you're actually like
Hmm.
on the battlefield with them, like you're not like some mascot that they're just cheering after, like, hey, like, you know, Jarrich, like he's the man, and we're all like he's like some demagogue, right? That you're all fighting for. Although I think there's value in being that person, but
Totally.
You're more like you're on the battlefield with them. You know, you're on the battlefield with them and you're like, hey, I've just got a bit more experience. I'm obsessed with this thing. Hopefully, I'm just going to help you the best of my abilities. That is the energy I'm trying to bring now. So I don't know if that's main character
Mm,
energy or what, but I think it's about being able to crank the dial when you need to. Maybe I need a bit more attention. I feel like I want to attract some more eyeballs. I feel like I want to reach some more people. I feel like I need to show people that I am that guy, but then always coming at it through the lens of like, I'm doing this to serve my people, not to um,
mm,
project myself above them so that they pay me more money. Cause that works in the short term. I don't think it works in the long term. Cause dude, I'm here for, I'm building my career here. And one thing I've learned is like, if people idolize you, there's only so much value that brings to your life before you realize like a lot of the people that idolize you actually aren't the people that are going to get results in your programs, in your, like, let's say, if anything you serve them with. And how can you retain those people? You can't. Eventually they go, hey, look, I basically dumped all my money into this. I wasn't even ready for it. I was worshiping you. And now, I don't know, like I'm screwed. Um, but then realizing that on the other side of that is like, but they have to believe in you before they take the step anyway. So it's like a fine
right.
balance between main character energy, like, hey, I'm the guy out in front of you, like charging the field, and or like you're on the battlefield with them, rather than I'm the mascot that you're gonna pray to every night, but I'm not on the battlefield with you. I'm like actually just removed from you, taking your money and like capitalizing on the fact that you know blindly follow me. But that ain't leadership, in my opinion. You need to be on the battlefield with them, and that's what I've shifted towards, man. So yeah,
I love
don't know
that.
what you think.
I No, I resonate with that a lot, and I think that one of the I hesitate to say movements, but one of the things I've been observing in the online, especially I guess the coaching space and consulting, is that there's a move more away from just like a course where you pay however much money and like here's the thing, go do it, to more let me do it with you. Here's like some material, but let me work together with you to actually help you get that result. Kind of like more of a collaborative type of arrangement rather than just like here's the stuff, go figure it out kind of thing. And I want to use that kind of thought as a pivot into, I know that you recently launched your one of your offers, one of the things that you were doing. I think it was called Arthur 2.0. Am I correct in saying that?
That is
Tell me
correct.
tell me a bit about that. I'm lucky enough to be on all of like your email lists and stuff, so I saw all of it coming by and it looks super interesting. But I'd love to hear, tell me a bit about that and also where the interest lies for you in that program and what you're doing.
Sure, dude. So Arthur was my my first ever offer, my first ever group offer, and I launched it when I had about 1,500 followers on Twitter. Um, that was one thing I will say. I've always been a proponent, and I didn't know, I wasn't aware of this at the time, but I've always been a proponent of like quality over quantity in terms of audience. I had a really high quality audience. A lot of people, it was breaking a lot of people's minds to like, how's this guy launching group coaching offers like from his social media, like where he's only got limited traffic, limited people following him, and like profiting. Like for a lot of people, it was like, surely you need way more followers. And I'm actually very proud of that. When I look back, I'm like, I had the balls to do that, and it was only because I built a high quality audience, and I built it from the ground, grassroots, rather than top down building. It was more like grassroots up, like a lot of time spent with people, a lot of free coaching calls and stuff like that. Like I was on the ground with these people, and I actually loved it. I just loved the way that um, it was all dudes. Although I do work with women, I just the new girls just signed on. So I do work with chicks. They actually are really committed when they get going. Actually, sometimes, quite often, the chicks are better than the dudes. But that's by
I
the
believe
by.
it.
Yeah, dude, because it's like a bit of a differentiator. But Arthur was like all dudes, and it was like very like masculine energy, like supporting each other. And I feel like, especially in online business, like there's nothing better than that feeling of brotherhood. There's nothing better than that feeling of support from dudes that are also very ambitious, motivated, wants to self-improve to the point where like they know they need to get around the right people. And anyway, I launched that the first time. It was more like a personal branding cohort. It did really well. And then because I just didn't have the marketing knowledge, man, like I was just winging it at the time. Bearing in mind, I've been in online business a long time. I didn't really understand info products marketing. And so I didn't understand like upsells, downsells, LTV, like all of these terms that I wasn't introduced to yet. And I was just winging it. You know, I had no like mentorship, no real guidance from people that actually knew how to do this. So I ended up just kind of like, I just ended it. And I didn't have a system for continuously selling. And then what I did was like, sorry guys, like it's over now. I don't know what I'm doing next. And so it kind of died, or at least it went into hibernation. And then here we are, like a year and a half later. I've run 2, 3 other group coaching offers since. I've had one-to-one offer. I've been running my one-to-one offer. I've got into other people's businesses and run their offers, like written their offers. I've pretty much built people's info products and sold them for them, like bigger creators. And when I got to this point this year where I was scaling one of my creators to like way beyond, like it was like we were at 13K a month MRR. It wasn't like we did a launch. It was like we were continuously bringing in like a lot of cash and scaling. That I realized I was like, I'm like running this guy's business, and why have I stopped like launching my own offers? And I realized I was hiding, like I was being lazy. It got difficult to do that all the time, and I burnt out, and that's why I started doing it for other people, because I was like, hey, I have a little bit of all I have to do is write the offer and give them a sales system, and they'll crush. That actually meant that I was like trying to reduce my workload, because I knew that when I was running my own offers, there's more work. And so once I figured out, I was like, I had something happen to me earlier in the year. I realized that I was hiding. I was like, screw it, I'm launching Arthur again. It was my favorite offer. I just need to get back in the game. And I know those boys will come back, because they never left, and because it was awesome for all of us. It was life-changing. Some people quit their 9-to-5s. At the time, I was sort of targeting 9-to-5ers. People quit their 9-to-5s, replaced their mortgage, started paying off their mortgage with their coaching income. People were signing clients left, right, and center. I was like, this is a personal branding cohort, but like clearly people can get clients. And that is actually when I look back and I was like, even when I was running offers, which were like build your personal brand, which I don't do anymore necessarily, it's kind of baked in, I was helping people get clients. And then I realized, I was like, this is what I've done for years. Coming to like being proud of that. Like for some reason, there's just something about me that when people get around me, they just get clients. They just start making more money. I was like, I stopped being ashamed of it, and I stopped feeling like it was dirty, and I started actually like owning it and being like, this is a great thing I can help people who I'm actually really proud of this. I'm putting food on people's table, or I'm helping them scale their business. I'm helping their dreams come true. I'm helping people step up as leaders in their lives and like realizing their potential. I'm like, and financially, obviously there's a reward, but what it's doing for people is massive. And I stopped being ashamed. I stopped hiding. Arthur was like me going, fuck it, boys, I'm back. And like, who wants to fucking smash it? Like, so, yeah, that is Arthur, dude. That is Arthur.
So
It's,
cool.
that's what it is.
That's sick. I saw all of the stuff that you were sharing around Arthur, and it was one of those things where it was like super cool thing, not the right time for me, but it was really awesome kind of seeing that you were just like, hey, I'm putting this out there. I know this is something that I can do. And I loved how you mentioned that you kind of got to a point where you realized like, why am I not making my own offers? Why am I not doing this thing again that I've crashed with in the past, and using all of that experience? I kind of want to ask you, was there a particular moment or thing that happened that made you kind of realize of, wait a sec, I should be doing this? You kind of hinted to it a little bit in what you said, but I'm curious if there's anything you can share on that.
Are you religious?
Yes, that's partially why I'm curious.
All right. I've always believed in God. I was raised a Catholic, and I rejected a lot of it when I was growing up, but I've always been the most spiritually curious out of all of my friends, digging into the books, open-minded, reading different religious scriptures, never really committing, but always believing like there's something there, you know? And I think I get it. I think I get a lot of it from my mum naturally, like it's in my blood. But also my upbringing, and my dad used to read us the Bible and stuff. So it never really left me. It was ideas were planted at a young age, and like the natural teenage angst kind of kicks in, and
Yeah.
you rebel. But that doesn't mean it's gone. What you're doing is you're rebelling against the seed that's already growing inside you. And
100%.
anyway, so something happened at the beginning of the year. I was acting, let's just say, a bit irresponsibly. I was enjoying the fact that, hey, I'm not launching my own offers, I'm launching other people's offers. So I'm just a hired gun and I'm making money, and it's easy money, because I'm not taking on all that stress, all of that responsibility.
Mm,
So I started partying a bit, and I started, doing some irresponsible things. Nothing like, nothing like compared to when I was younger, but just at the point I'm at in my life, 30 years old, uh, capable of a lot of things, responsible for an audience, small audience, but a committed audience, responsible for my own business, responsible for any partners I bring into my life, I take full responsibility for. I'm like, I've got this different mindset now. I shouldn't be, why am I acting like I was when I was 22, And something happened that was like a very near miss. Like, I won't mention it on the podcast because it's just it's a bit too sensitive, I think, for the audience. And all they need to know is this. I felt like I had no control over my life, and I felt like my life was about to essentially fall off a cliff. When you feel like you have no control over your life, that is that's one of the scariest things in the world. It is so scary. That is pure fear. I have no control over what's going to happen here. That is when you are at your most afraid. And I was so afraid, so afraid. And all I could do was turn to God and turn to prayer. I was that desperate. Like, and I know, I've been praying for years, but all I could do was put my faith in God. That was all I could do. And so he answered me. He answered my prayer. And I realized what happened. He basically saved my ass, right? He saved me from a very near miss. And I realized what he was trying to show me. And that was, you've been hiding from who you really are. And this is why this has happened. So sort it out, get back to work, basically. And I was like, yeah, I'm not afraid of who I am anymore. I'm not scared of the judgment. I'm not scared of the fear. I have faith in God and the plan. And this is what he meant for me. Like, I can't control who I am. If someone wants to hang out with me for a few days, the business is probably going to change. Not going to lie. It's happened so many times now. I'm like, I shouldn't be ashamed of that. Like, it's just something inside of me that and actually happens. I'm like, God made me this way. And he's saying, hey, look, I made you for a purpose. Stop being ashamed. Stop being ashamed of who you are. These are your gifts. Use them, or I'm just going to put you through hell again. And he probably will put me through hell again and again. And I'm down for it because I learn a lot. But I made a vow, like, I will stop hiding, and I will fulfill the purpose that you've put here. You basically put out for me. And that actually is leading people to a better life, grading
mm.
their life, upgrading their income, living abundantly, because God doesn't want us to be struggling. He wants us to live abundantly. He wants us to be thriving. And so I was like, if you can do that for people, hey, there's people leading me too. I'm not saying I'm some like supreme leader here. So I'm like, if I can do that and pass things on and bring people up and lift people up, that's what he wants me to do. So I just accepted the call and was like, dude, I'm in. I'll stop ignoring this. And when I do this next time, I will go at it with complete faith, because with you, I cannot fail. And that has brought a different energy, dude. That has brought a different energy to the whole thing. Like, I fear nothing now, and it feels so good. Not gonna lie.
That's crazy. I love that, and I appreciate sharing something that is quite personal and intimate in a sense that I think if you're not religious, you probably don't really get that how like transformative an experience that can be. And I think that what's cool for me is that I relate to a lot of what you said in a lot of different ways where personally also raised religious, personally also fell off the the bandwagon for quite a while and then also hit some sort of an obstacle where it was like, actually, this sucks a lot for a lot of different reasons, and there's no other place that I can turn to than to turn to God and be like, all right, I understand that I've been putting my head in the sand, that I've been ignoring you this whole time. Help me out, help me understand what I need to be doing. But what I love the most, and I should say from that moment on, I feel like my life has changed, and this has only been the last 4 years or something like that, so it's not been anything crazy. But I love how you mentioned that you've just overcome that fear in a lot of ways. And I think that if there's two things that I think keep most wannabe like creators or people wanting to make money online stuck, it's either a lack of the technical skills that are required or fear in some sense. Like, I don't know how to make an offer. I don't know how to help people. I don't know how to build an audience. Like, I'm going to fail. People are going to laugh at me. All of these kinds of things. That's what keep people stuck. But when you're able to be fearless in that sense of what you're talking about, you can put out those offers. You can do those things. You can look stupid and learn so much from it that other people just won't because they don't even try. Right? You're taking these shots and you're missing some of them, but at least you took those shots. And I think that that counts for a lot there. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think that people, kind of to what you were saying as well, they get that energy from being around you. That there's that fearlessness, there's this I absolutely cannot fail and I will make this work no matter what. And that is infectious, I think. And people get that as well from your kind of presence and the things that you share on X. And I appreciate you sharing that too. Because if I'm being completely honest, I've been in a spot for a little while now where I just feel like I can't figure it out. And I feel like I have been kind of paralyzed, but it's more my own thinking than anything else. And hearing how it's been for you puts into perspective for me what I really need to be focusing on. And part of that is developing and deepening that relationship with God to that extent where I don't have that fear, and also just being willing to go for it, right? Like, let's just put out that offer. Who knows what happens, and that kind of thing. And I think from what you're saying, you're a real testament to the impact that that can have on your life. Kind of going back to where we started, where you have all these experiences, you develop your personality, you have an actual character, you're a human being that's not just shallow and surface level, right? So I really loved everything that you said there. I don't know if anything that I said just prompted some thoughts from you, but if so, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, it did, dude, massively. So I think you were saying like some people lack skill, but I think what they really lack is faith. Like faith is I can't fail. Like as in like I know what the ending is, and that's because I know what's going to happen at the end because God is guiding me. Like he's not going to put me into some ditch and leave me there. Like, even removing God from the scenario and just talking to people more generally, right? Like people that maybe don't have that relationship with God yet. It's like I was on the call with my mum. Like I called my whole family because I was up to, I told you I woke up at 2:30 this morning. I couldn't get back to sleep. And I basically like spoke to all of my family. And I spoke to my mum and I said to her, like, look, I was like, I'm trying to figure out where to like fully set up, like where I want to set up for the next few years. Cause, I've just decided I'm going to do it. Like I've decided I'm going to do it. And she didn't need to know. She knew what I meant. She knew what I meant. You probably know what I mean. Like, it's like, I've been doing this game for a few years, but I've had these ups and downs and these kind of like figuring it out. And like, 1 minute you're winning, 1 minute you're losing. That I was riding that roller coaster as a passenger, like thinking that this is it every time. This is it. Check marks. They're just checkpoints on the journey. None of it's
Hmm.
failure. Even the wins, like they're just checkpoints on the journey. I know how it ends. So I'm just accepting it now. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So like, I've had some crazy shit happen to me over the last few weeks. And in the past, it really would have fazed me. Like I would have been really, really shook. But now I'm like, it's like, there's just like a resilience. There's just a resilience to it all now. And it's because of that faith. Like it's because of that faith. That faith is what's actually enabling me to just deflect all of this shit now. I'm like, that's the difference between winners and losers. Because the winners are like, there are no losses. It's just
Hmm.
moving forward because we know that we get to the end. 100
Right.
people take off from the starting point. Half of them will never even try. They'll stop at the first hurdle. Another 30 of them will get a fair bit of the way and then they'll quit. Then you're into the top 10% of people, the last 10%, the nutcases, right? Probably about 5% of those people will think they'll fail when it's at its hardest. Right when it's at its hardest, they push beyond the pain so much, I can't bear
Mm.
it. And then there's 5 people left that actually go the whole way because the whole time they were like, this pain, all this stuff is kind of irrelevant because the goal and the end point, I know I'm getting there. So I can, I'm not tapping out because I know this pain ends and I get there. And
Mm.
I think that's really what faith is. It's 5% of people that have faith that actually go the whole way. It's not skill. It's It's faith, and faith leads to making ballsy moves again and again, tolerating horrible situations which would make most people feel like they're suffocating. And that is the entrepreneur, the person who can withstand the most pain because he knows how it ends. So yeah, that's what you sparked in
That's
me.
so good. That's so good. I love that. I would I would love to hear just from your perspective, and I know that you will say that, you're not like a guru or an expert or anything on this topic, and that's totally fine, but I would love to hear how you would operationalize how to get that kind of bulletproof faith, right? I know that there is not one correct path and one way to do that, but from your personal experience, how do you engineer that? What does that look like? Because for myself, one of the things that I ponder about and think about, and I think it's directly related to this idea of faith, right? Is that when you have that faith, you develop I call it delusional optimism, in the sense of it's delusional because in a lot of ways there's no guarantee that whatever you believe will happen, but you know it will happen, right? So from the outside looking in, it's like Dan's insane. There's no way like that Dan's gonna do this, right? But like right here and right here that it's gonna happen. It's that delusional kind of like optimism and I will win, not just because of who you are, but also because of who he is, right? And so I'd love to hear from you, like, what has led you to develop the faith that you feel like you have right now that makes winning inevitable for you, right?
Failure. Lots of failure. I think that's the I think that's the key. Taking more shots. I think most people are afraid of failure because, well, I mean, this topic has been spoken about by people since the dawn of time and a lot of podcasts. So I'm probably not going to say anything new here, but people are scared of failure because they associate failure with ruin, with death. Ruin leads to death, right? You end up, if you're ruined, you have nothing. You have nothing, you end up on the street. You end up on the street, you end up sick. You end up sick, you end up possibly dead. And I think that's why people are too afraid to do it. They associate failure with death. And
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing is they're actually denying themselves all of that wisdom that comes along with fucking up. And actually, like, that's where you get the harshest lessons. And the harshest lessons always stick. They always stick the most. The person who's winning all the time and all of a sudden loses, it's like, they almost like, whoa, like, it's the person that is a winner is the person that's lost so many times that winning becomes a habit because they know how to avoid all that bullshit. So they're doing
Mm-hmm.
things
Mm-hmm.
differently to you on a micro scale every single day, little micro actions, micro habits. They're just avoiding those things, whereas the person can be blindly going through life, blindly winning, and all of a sudden, oh my God, how do I deal with this failure? They're gone. They're vanished. Person that just shows that resilience, keeps turning up every single day, no matter what, and is like, I think the key is you've really got to know what you want. Like for me, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why would I not do this? I love this game. I love this business. I've been doing this for years. Why would I turn my back on this just because one offer flopped? Why would I turn my back on this just because I had a hard like last month was a big month and this month was a bad month? Because that's what sucks the most. Like you can be going on like having shitty months for a long time. It's when you have the good month followed by a bad month that hurts a lot more because it makes you feel like a freaking fraud. Like you're like, whoa, I've just done like the biggest month I've ever done, and then like the next month you're like down here.
Mm-hmm.
That cognitive dissonance is more damaging than fuck. When's this going to pay off? Like this is like I was a fluke. I'm not. And then you adjust mentally to your expectations, and then you can. It's hard to reach it again. So the real grit and determination comes from you have that big win, and then you have a drop off. How do you respond to the drop off? The drop off is really where the real character's built. Like this is just this is just consistency. This is like peak experience. Then it's the drop off that inevitably happens. It doesn't just go up all the time. That drop off is where that really tests people. Like that's what tested me the most. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like it's about um it's about more failure, dude. It's about more failure. And that's why I love making a lot of offers. I mean, I've got my flagship offers now, which is starting to emerge, which I'm really happy with. My mechanisms like now like dialed in. Like I know what mechanism I'm going to be like officially like saying, hey guys, I've got a mechanism that you can't get anywhere else. because of through trial and error. It's all comes through trial and error.
Right.
You look at anyone that's smashing it, dude. Their process came from trial and error. Maybe they had a mentor that gave them a model. They used the model didn't quite work for them. They changed some things. Boom. They failed with the thing. All of a sudden now they've created a brand new model. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the failure is what is what makes you the guy or the girl, because enough of those creates a unique process to get success in the end. So yeah, dude, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's a long-winded way of expanding out. I just expanded out on one word, which is like, or one phrase, which is just fail more, and realize that
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you do, failure is not definite. Like failure is not definite. Like it's, you actually cannot fail. Everything in the meantime is just a harsh realization of where you had a blind spot. And that's what people think that's what we call failure, but that's actually not failure. That's just, you had a blind spot. Now you don't.
It's true. It's true. So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And this is the last kind of where like kind of angle I want to dig into this. Right? Is as you were talking, the thing that I'm thinking about is a lot of people fail, but their failure doesn't alchemize into success. It alchemizes into I did something wrong, and now I'm just going to stop and give up and that kind of thing. I think a huge part of that is just not doing enough, right? Not failing enough, not trying enough. But it sounds like from what you're saying that the key to making sure that failure turns into success is in part at least redefining what failure actually is, where it's not a dead end. It's not a, you screwed up, you're the worst person ever, but this is just the cost of learning. That's just what happens. And you're going to look stupid and you're going to do things that are dumb, but you're addressing your weaknesses. You're addressing those blind spots that you didn't know that you had, and you're able to build something that is impossible to build without the experience that comes from bumping into things, right? You have to do that constantly. Would you say that's a pretty fair way of laying that out, or is there anything that you would add on to that from turning failure into success and rather than failure into more failure?
I mean, I've always been into this idea of alchemy, and I think like, how do you alchemize things? So, for example, how do you turn a morning walk into a brainstorming session? Like, how do you turn morning sunlight into energy for the day, right? How do you turn a setback into into a launch pad to something bigger, So I think definitely it's about sort of like turning things on their head and reframing things is massive. But then also I think the one thing that will just save so many people's, like, which will really, really solidify this for people, is you need to know that what you want is the thing you really want. Because you heard of this thing called, have you heard of mimetic desire?
Yes.
So just for the people listening, mimetic desire is this theory that if I get a coffee, you want the coffee because I want it. So I'm like, oh, I really want a coffee. And then I get the coffee. Now you want it because I want it. And that's what a lot of people are doing in this space. There's a few people that have the balls and the courage. A lot of them are scammy, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, they have the balls and the courage to basically put their wants, desires, their lifestyle, everything like that out onto social media because they decided that they wanted that, or at least maybe they're copying someone else, but like probably. But the point is, like, you see something that someone wants and you think that it's valuable and you want that too. And I think a lot of people end up chasing things that aren't really their true desires. They're not actually what they want. So you got to know what you want, and then you got to set a goal around it. Is it what you truly want? Because if it's what you truly want, nothing can stop you from getting it. And I think this is where Buddhism is basically like flawed. They're like, oh, you should have no desires. It's like, I think that's bullshit. Like, come on. Like if you want to get things in life, you need to desire them. You need to have burning desire to get something, and you will get it. Is it going to make you happy? Possibly not. But we're in the business of survival and thriving. You need shit. You need shit. So stop
True.
fucking
It's true.
around. Yeah, like, you need shit. So like, you got to want it. And Naval says this, and this is something I've been incorporating lately, is like, set your mind on one thing you want, just one overwhelming desire, one thing you want. And, you know, focus on that for 6 to 12 months and see if you still want that thing. I can guarantee you'll have results. And because your whole or like your whole system, your whole like your awareness will be tuned to everything that helps you reach that one goal. And that is where
Hmm.
the music happens. So that's when the 2 hours sleep, that's where the magic
The
happens,
magic.
because yeah, the magic, there we go. Because now you don't have to think about achievement of the goal. It's now happening almost in your subconscious. And that is where you get the real momentum, is like my whole being is working towards this one thing, even when I'm not thinking about it. You are thinking about it. Now you are just in motion 24/7 towards that one thing. I think there's nothing that can stop you. So just to go back to the beginning, or like to reiterate, failure is important to learn the lessons along the way and realize that that is like, they're the checkpoints towards the goal. You need to make sure that the thing you want is the thing you want, not Joe Blogs up the road, not Eman Gadzi over there, not whatever, this fucking guy, right? What you want, not what Dan West wants, not what Jarrich wants, what you want, right? That's hard because it requires thinking. They need to set a goal around it. I don't care how big, I don't care how small, just set a goal around it that you know, I'm going for that. Kind of remove everything else and just go for it and have faith that you'll achieve it. Like, that sounds so simple. It's a framework. Sounds so simple, oversimplified, because you're going to have to deal with a lot of shit along the way. That took me so long to realize that it's that simple. It is that simple, but it doesn't work without faith. So it kind of comes back to the beginning. What we're talking about is like, the faith is the missing piece of the puzzle for people. And then you can
Mm.
endure anything. Failures are no longer failures. They're just chapters, and they're just good stories along the way. And then you're just going to share those stories. Like, trust me, I've done that with a lot of my audience. A lot of my audience is like, this guy's out, like he's done, he's finished. And then I'm like, nah, I'm coming back from the dead, motherfucker. So like, and then,
That's the
we win
one.
again, and then we win. And so it's like, they're just stepping stones, dude. So yeah, that was just what I wanted to add to it, because it's simple. It's a simple framework, but it people don't think it's that simple.
It's true. That's really powerful. I love that. I resonate with a ton of that. Okay, I want to change track now and kind of pivot a little bit to a different topic. So, one of the things that I really admire about you in this conversation, and also in just the way that you show up online, is, and this is a buzzword that gets thrown around all the time, is authenticity, right? Showing up, and how I define authenticity is showing up, and showing up as yourself the way that you are, or in a sense of, I've never met you before, right? I've only followed you on X, but now that I'm chatting with you, you're exactly the way that I would imagine you to be based off of how I see you showing up on X. To me, that's pretty much the hallmark of authenticity, right? And obviously you're not just, spewing your thoughts online, you're also building a brand, building a business, all these kinds of things, right? It's all part of the game. But I'm curious for you, and this is also sort of a selfish question because I struggle with this a bit. What helps you to just show up authentically online instead of what I think 90% of people are doing online, where it's more performative, like they're posting the little platitudes, they're copying all the threads that, these viral creators create, all this kind of stuff. How do you step away from that and step more into who you are in a way that actually brings people into what you're doing, if that makes sense?
I think I still struggle with it from time to time. You want to, because you need guardrails. You need guardrails with your brand and with with the content you're putting out there. It can't just be whatever's on your mind. But I think it's just, I've said it a few times, and sometimes the things that sound a bit trite you end up realizing are the most true. It's like, you got to know yourself. You got to know what game you're playing, and you got to know what your values are. And so I think if you don't know what your values are, if you don't know what game you're playing, I posted a tweet about this the other day and did pretty well. It was like, I'm scaling my business on 3 core pillars. And
Hmm.
this is something that's different. Like, people talk about values all the time and knowing yourself. I think this is like, not revolutionary, but something that people don't talk about. Is like the pillars I'm actually building my business on. And I was like, number 1 is data. Number 2 is storytelling. And number 3 is energy and fun, which I think are 2 very similar things, at least in my book. And the reason why I put this out there, and I was like, because number 1, I want people to know, like, hey, I'm playing this game. I'm playing a different game from most of you guys, because like, this is my criteria for how I do everything. So automatically, I have 3 pillars. It's a pick and mix. Like I've chosen these. Like, let me just say this, like I'm a storyteller as well. Like I love the emotional shit. If you don't have data, like you're in trouble. You can't scale. And that's saved me a lot of pain is going by the data. Storytelling, I've always been a storyteller. I don't think you can rank people and like, he's a better storyteller than him and his stories are better than his. Like maybe the
Right.
algorithm might give you a bit of an insight, but I still not really. But I know for a fact by the fact that most of my leads come from stories, it's like, well, this is a strength for me and I'm probably therefore one of the best in the world at it, statistically speaking. So I'm going to play to my
Hmm.
strength there. And then lastly was energy and fun. So spoken about energy a lot. One thing I didn't speak about enough is fun. Whenever I hang out with people, like I have a podcast or a mix of people that I vibe with, even like mentors and clients, like if we're laughing and if we're having a good time, that's where I want to be. And if just so happens that we're talking about business and making money and I'm having a good time doing that, and like we're kind of like buzzing, like right now, like our minds are like, whoa, like it's kind of zinging a bit,
Hmm.
right? Like feel like, zzz, um, like those 3 things is how I want to do things. And so, um, I think knowing what game you're playing is huge. It's huge for knowing like just turning up authentically and not hiding anything, I think is the most important thing. And I think if you want to go like even like a level deeper, is just being honest. Like there's some things I might not share on this podcast. There's a few things I don't want to overshare or like, be so vulnerable that it's like fucking hell, but it's like vulnerability is good, but it's just being honest, like not trying to hide anything, not trying to pretend anything. And I think like leaving things out is fine. I don't have anything against people that leave things out, but it's like saying things and doing things that aren't actually aligned with you and are just dishonest. Like you're not serving yourself and you're definitely not serving your audience. And people know that, you know? And so I think like one thing that happened to
Totally.
me, like I said at the beginning of the year, I was like, look, like crap December and I'm like rebuilding at the moment. Some people message me like, dude, you should not be saying like that you had a bad month. Like you should be keeping the like charade going, basically. I was like, fuck, I disagree, but
Hmm.
I still was like doubting myself. I was like, oh, but they said that maybe I shouldn't be so. But now I'm like, well, it's actually done me a favor because people saw me like bring it back, and now it's like this guy's the
Right.
dude. Like this guy's the guy. Like he can go through some shit and come out the other side, and he just builds himself up. Like that inspires me to do the same. That means I can overcome failure because I'm watching it in real time with this guy. And in the future,
Hmm.
maybe I'll be more tactical. Maybe I'll say, hey, look, this happened a few months ago when I came through it. I probably won't give them live updates, but people have seen it, and whoever was like lost faith in me went. Whoever kept faith in me stayed, and I'm stronger. Like we're stronger than ever. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just about radical honesty and transparency. And if you stick to that and you know what game you're playing, you know your values, I think your content will naturally resonate with that. And I think what a lot of people do, and it's the last thing I'll say on it, sometimes when people are true to themselves and they don't get the immediate feedback, they think no one cares. No, I'm shit. Like my
Right.
true self is not accepted. My true self isn't good enough. And it's like, that's the algorithm, dude. If you post that same tweet in a year, same tweet, it will go off because you would have been building a consistent relationship with your audience and the algorithm. People don't
Right.
realize that. So it's about having faith again in yourself and in your truth. And look, it doesn't matter on the performance of the tweet. Some people, some low IQ people will go, oh, that's crap, or oh, that's a shit piece of content. But the smart people you're actually trying to attract into your world, if you're a coach, consultant, even an agency owner, whatever, is people that spot real, like real recognizes real, and I think that's why it's
Yep.
super important.
That's sick. That is so cool. I love all of that. What I would love, and I'm curious about with that radical honesty and showing up, sharing what you're doing, bring people into your world, that kind of thing. What does your writing or creation routine look like for social media or whatever it is that you're creating? Is it just kind of a something just happened, let me just share something online, or is it more become more tactical? You kind of hinted at that a bit as well, or maybe, I don't know, do you sit down once a week and go, all right, here's my content for the week, let me just plan some stuff out? What does that kind of look like for you? How do you maintain that authenticity through your writing?
So for me, like the emails are the most important piece of my puzzle because I just learn so much when I'm writing those emails. I just solidify my ideas so much. I like to write stories, but I also am like obsessive over the problems and pains, desires and dreams of my audience. And I've got a lot of data now. Whenever I have a sales call, I will like log all of the data. Like I'm just blogging the data. So now I know what like people's pains are, what people's problems are, I know what people's dreams are, what their desires are. And sometimes I'll just like go into there and I'll just refresh myself, or I'll watch a sales call and listen to what they were saying. So like I'm just obsessing over the problems of my audience. That helps a lot. So everything's being created with them in mind. Then what I do is I like fill my head with all that shit, and then I create content that I find fun to create. So I need to enjoy it. Otherwise, I don't think anything I've written where it felt like it was performative ever hit. So every piece of content that's performed well for me has been something I've enjoyed writing or producing. Um, so how I do things, I usually, at the moment, I've got such a big swipe file of like posts that did really well, maybe went viral, um, that I store for safekeeping, and I use the ones that still apply to my current way of thinking, like regularly. So I'll recycle things and rework things that have worked in the past. And then when it comes to new content, like my long form, all comes from my email, my daily email. So I'll just shred that down into something more manageable for audience on X. I find that is the best for really not as many people read those because it's long form, and also like I don't know, like sometimes it's not designed to get reach; it's designed to get maximum indoctrination or maximum influence, like for people reading it. So the people reading it is
Right.
really impactful. Not trying to reach everyone, just trying it's targeted almost. So yeah, I mean, if I was to like go back to the beginning, like what's my process? The email is the most important thing for me because that's where I'm really like consolidating my ideas. It's where I'm getting a lot of meditative like thinking time about the problems, refreshing myself and reminding myself of the problems, the pains, the desires, the dreams of my audience, which I have a lot of data on, and also just instinctively know. Um, Using my winners to like keep generating the traffic if I because I need traffic to build my email list. Um,
Right.
but that still resonates with me. And then I have my long form content that I'll post once a day that stems from my email. So it's like repurposing. And then finally, let's say we're at 2 posts a day now. The third post is usually something like just a personal little story. It's a something that happened that day. It's maybe a strong opinion I have, something contrarian. Like I used to have a bit of a reputation for being very contrarian. Um, Less so now, but I mean, I could crank it up if I had to. So yeah, that's really my process. And I've realized lately that yeah, writing's at the core of it all. As much as I have gone through my roller coaster with my relationship with writing, not because I've fallen out of love with it, more like I spoke with a client about this the other day and we were saying like there's something shameful. You feel a bit ashamed when you know it's who you are. You hide from it. So if you know you're a writer, sometimes you're like, I don't just want to be a writer though. But what you're doing is you're shaming
Interesting.
yourself. You're shaming yourself. So you never fully lean into it as like a gift. And I'll tell you something now. I know a lot of creators in the space. Like I've had, I'm friends with some of the biggest creators, just from spending time in the space, even hiring them as mentors and stuff. And I've noticed that the writers are the ones that all the other creators are most intrigued about. It's like they have status. Like if you're a writer, people are like, you're an entrepreneur, but you're also an artist. That
Mm,
is something people admire. It's like, fuck, like this guy can think like a
right.
G. You become, like, and you think all the best music artists, they're all writers, really, songwriters. Being able to write is like the top, the top, that you're top of like the respect hierarchy in terms of creators, because it takes a lot of patience, dude. It's hard. And, you know, writers who write screenplays or like TV series or films, like they're the top dogs, man. So I've started now to actually like reframe how I see writing and be like, they are the apex creators, really, because everything starts in a thought, and the thought gets written. You know, you can visualize things and create videos, but like the thoughts are visualized as a tweet. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get good at that, you're a G. And so I started like actually accepting that, being a lot more comfortable with it, being proud of it, and constantly thinking, okay, this is the thing that really drives my business. How good I am at writing, how much I'm improving my writing, how I'm able to communicate authentically through my writing, how I'm able to change things up, but also use proven things as well, like just being creative without
Right.
being overboard. Um, and yeah, that's it, dude. That's like my guess it's my system.
That's powerful. I think that's so cool. I find that fascinating with bringing on that identity of being a writer or a creator, and I think that's so important to have. For myself, it's kind of been a weird journey where I always loved writing. My dream was always to be a writer, but everyone around me would always be like, "Oh no, you have to like do all of you have to be you have to make it so big to make writing a career. You know, you're J.K. Rowling's or whatever. Otherwise, it's not worth it. You're just gonna be broke. You're gonna be a broke artist, and it's not worth it." So I pivoted into education, and then I moved kind of more into sales and marketing, and now I'm where I am. But knowing that, taking on the identity and being able to accept of like, hey, actually, this is a strength that I have. This is something that I love to do. Why would I want to hide that, right? I think that kind of goes to pivoting a little back to that sort of faith discussion of not hiding your light under a bushel, right? That's one of the things that talks about in the Bible of if you have a light, don't be ashamed of it. I think it's sometimes in the competitive nature of things and how we are in the world, we feel like that's like a way of being humble. Is if we have a strength to kind of downplay it, like, oh, it's not that crazy or anything like that. But actually, you're doing people more of a service by sharing that light with them so that they feel inspired, they feel lifted up, all of that kind of thing by what you're doing. And that's a lot more powerful than hiding from that identity. So I really love what you just mentioned there.
I'll tell a quick story, like very quick story, just to illustrate it. Like I've always been told that I have very long eyelashes, right? Like they're very long. When I was younger, when I was very young, you can kind of see them here, like they're thick. I used to go to my mum used to take me to the hairdressers, and all these, like, it was just a women hairdresser. So it was like a woman barber. So like, the barbers were all women. And they used to come around and they used to like make a fuss of me and my little brother. Oh my God, your eyelashes are so long. I want them, blah, blah, blah. And I thought in my head, I look like a girl and I look feminine. And these are bad. These are really bad. Like I look like, I don't know, like effeminate, right? And I didn't like that. Because I was like, I used to play football and I was like, I've always identified as a boy, but like this, I was like, this is making me feel like I'm a girl, like I'm lame. And when I was growing up at school, like the girls started to say to me like, oh my God, your eyelashes are so long. One guy came up to me and was like, you should cut your eyelashes. And I was just so embarrassed and ashamed at the time. Like I was just like, wow, like I hate this. Like I feel like this is a burden. I don't want them. And it really hurt my esteem. And then one day, like I realized that, and there were girls that wanted to like, I used to get the bus as well. And there was one, I used to get on one of the last stops and there used to be a bunch of girls that like, let's put mascara on you. Anyway, you get my point. And eventually I remember like a girl I had a crush on, like came over one day and was like, oh, your eyelashes are amazing. And then I started getting closer with her and then I made her my girlfriend. And then I realized I was like, this thing that I've seen as a burden my whole life, it's actually a strength. It's actually something, it's actually a gift. In many ways, it makes me look different. It's a point of difference. And that's the same with having the identity of being a writer. It's like you are ashamed of it because all the stigma, like all these things, like the stigma, not like you're a loser, more like, oh, you can't be a writer. Oh, only these people write. Oh, you can't make money
Right.
from writing. Oh, everyone's a writer on Twitter. And you hear all these things, you start shaming yourself. And actually, it's like, in reality, dude, you've got a gift. And of course, not everyone can be a writer because they weren't given the gift that you've been given. So that is the reality, is like, we have these gifts. When are you going to accept them? When are you going to start loving them rather than fighting against them and feeling ashamed? Otherwise, you're screwed. You're screwed. You live your life like everyone else who never realizes what they've got, you know? So
Hmm.
yeah, an example of like accepting yourself to actually start thriving. Like, once I accepted these, I got a girlfriend. Once you accept that you're a writer,
There
you're
you go.
probably going to start crushing it. So, you know.
Sick. The two last questions that I have for you, and then I'll let you get good on your flight. Is you talked about how one of your strengths, one of the things that you teach and work with people on is signing clients, right? How do I get more clients? In like 2 or 3 minutes on like a macro level, can you give me a crash course on how to sign clients?
So first of all, you need an offer. So no offer. Like, if you don't have an offer, the offer is essentially like the seed that the whole business grows out of. So without an offer, there is no business, to be honest with you. Like, when people say like, how do you start a business? It's like, well, come up with an offer and there's your business. So you've got to come up with an offer that is exactly what somebody wants, that solves a problem, a big problem. And the hairier the problem, the bigger the hairier the problem, the more money you're going to make and the more valuable the offer is. That doesn't mean you can't have offers that solve small problems. It's just, how valuable do you want the offer to be? How much money do you want to make? So if you tackle a bigger problem, you're gonna have a more valuable offer. And I find that, like, usually having a very particular stack of skills usually leads to the ability to solve a bigger problem. And the more
Hmm.
skills you have, and the more, like, almost like not randomly stacked they are, but like how they're arranged in your skill stack, and your experience and your credentials, obviously, and your belief, means you're going to be able to solve a bigger problem, which means your offer's going to be more valuable. So, but a lot of people mistakenly try and make that offer too complex. They do the Hormozy $1 million offers, like, stack and all this shit, and actually it just confuses them. Really, it's just about, like, is the problem you're solving a really painful problem, and how good are you at solving it? That's basically step one. Step two is then you got to generate leads. So lead generation is obviously what it says in the tin. Like, you're trying to get people interested in the offer. How do you do that? Well, you have to, first of all, you have to create content and put messages out into the marketplace that actually aligns with your offer, but also appeals to the kind of person you want to attract. A lot of people, what they do wrong is they just post for virality, and then they wonder, like, hang on, I'm getting 20 million views a month, but all the people I'm speaking to on calls, or like the people I'm pitching, they have no money. In fact, they have no experience in this,
Right.
even in this market. Like, I'm basically, I'm talking to an empty, I'm wasting energy. That is damaging to a business, when you're wasting energy on people that can't, won't, or, like, don't want your offer, or they're completely unqualified. You're getting bad leads. So the lead generation has to be high quality. And the way you do that is by dialing in the content, or rather making the right content for the right audience that also aligns with
Mm.
the offer. That's why I said, like, the offer comes first, obviously, because the content stems from the offer. So, like, for example, um, I will post a post that um, the goes semi-viral, and it will attract people to my email list. And because the post is a link to my offer, it's linked to the problem I solve, or the problems that I solve. The person comes into my email list and they get a message straight away, like an email. They're in the funnel. And it says, like, hey, what are you struggling with? Tell me, blah, blah, blah. And they're already so warm because they're like the right person. I've attracted the right person with the right bait. And then they come in, they're like, yeah, yeah, I'm totally down to get on a sales call with you. And then you get them on a sales call and then you close them. So it's like, that's a good example of lead generation. Um, and then finally, but then you can do ads and stuff like that. And then finally, the final piece of the puzzle is a sales process. So my sales process, so, like, this is, well, I'll quickly say what a sales process is. Like, it's how do you work the leads? Like, how do you take the lead from interested to a paying client? And that process looks different for everyone. And recently, the thing that I've landed on, the gold mine that I've landed on, is running challenges. So, like, I run a challenge, and I'm coming up with a name for it. I'm thinking of calling it a trial funnel, because what happens, or a sprint funnel, but I'm trying to come up with the right name for it right now. So like, this is a work in progress, but it's like, what I'll do is I'll bring people through, like bring the leads in to my world, and then I'll basically bring them through the sales process, which is fun, which is interactive, which helps them, breaks a lot of their limiting beliefs and sets them up for success and the next logical
Right.
step, which is to work with me. And I bring them through that. And all of a sudden now, like, they're sold. But basically the bottom line, like, that's my process. And that's what I'm going to be like. That's what my current one-to-one clients, I'm helping them set these things up. And we're starting with this kind of offer, which is linked to sales process, which helps. So the offer is a challenge. The leads are generated because they want to join the challenge, and then the sales process is the challenge. So it's like, what happens is like, all three boxes are ticked. And yeah, the sales process, obviously, that people can do it in different ways. Some people sell without sales calls, some people sell with sales calls, some people yeah, it's just really down to you. And there's so many different ways, so many different things you can do. I've got so many different like things I use to generate cash quick with the sales process. That's basically it, dude. Offer, lead generation, sales process. And if you look very closely, or you zoom out even, you'll see how Hormozy stacked his books. Offers came first, leads came second. He's called it money models. I know he was intentionally calling it sales. Offer, lead generation, sales, in that order. And so if you can get good at all those three things and install a system like my system into your business, you can't miss. Like, you can't fail if you try and you actually do it and you actually give it your best shot, because these systems work. And I wish I had a system before I started doing this. That's your business in the box right there. Client acquisition.
Boom. That is insane value and advice right there. I love that. I love that. So to wrap up then, I have two, and these are quick fire questions. I don't think they'll be very complex to answer. The first is, what are like either your top three, like people that you look up to that you're like, these are the goats, or top three like books or sources that you're like, this has changed my life? And then the second question is, if you could like post an ad or something that everyone in the world gets to see at least once, what would be on that like message that you broadcast to everyone? Those are the two questions.
So what was the first question? The first question was
top three like people that you really look up to that you think are the goats, or if that's hard, just top three like books or sources that you read that changed your life, kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. I'd say Jesus Christ.
That's the one. That's the right answer.
Yeah. Obviously, he's the boy. I think if you want to learn how to get better at storytelling, like just go and check out the Bible. Obviously, like the Bible and JC, but I've also checked out the Quran, and like Muhammad comes out with some pretty good shit as well. But let's put like prophets to one side. One person that really like introduced me to the possibility of money Twitter was like when I found Danko, I was like, holy shit, like there's an opportunity here. So like I have to thank him for letting us all know about the opportunity, right? Do I still follow his content? Is it relevant to me right now? Not necessarily, but I respect him massively, and I feel like he's godfathered a lot of this shit.
Yeah.
I then found Russell Brunson through the community. I think Russell Brunson, just timeless marketing knowledge. I think he's just a G. And then finally, one person that's had a tremendous influence on me is Gary Halbert. Like, I just love that dude, man. Like, if you watch his videos, like his actual like read the Boron letters and you'll see what I mean. Like his letters are incredible to his son Bond when he was in prison. And if you watch his like seminars and stuff, you're just like, this guy markets how I want to market. This guy speaks to people how I want to speak to people. He's so human. He's like your dad. He's like your dad with no filter. And I'm like, this guy is a legend. And that's how I want to be. I want to be like that kind of like, hey, look, I speak to you right now and I sell to you exactly how I would talk to my family, how I talk to my best friends. And I just think like that is just that. If you want a lesson in authenticity and like just being radically yourself, that guy is a G. And there's obviously other people I can give, like, there's other books that I would, um, attest to that have changed my life. But um, let's keep it simple and go with those for now.
I love that. I've kind of dabbled in the boron letters, but I haven't finished them yet. So this is a good reminder for me that I need to go back through them, because when I read the first couple of letters in there, I was like, "Wait, this is actually kind of legit. Hold up, I need to spend some more time on that." So that's a fire suggestion. The last question again was, if you could like post an ad or something that everyone in the world would see with a message of your choice, what would that message be? Can be anything you want.
Well, my best performing tweet. Maybe I'm a sellout for going for my thing that got the most engagement. um, but clearly it resonated with people most, and it was to take a fucking risk. Like, that's the difference between people who win and lose. Like, it's not how many times you succeed. It's about choosing to adopt a mindset of, I'll take the risk. I'll take the risk and see what happens. That in itself is usually enough to get people, like, once you make that decision, I take the fucking risk, because at the end of the day, I either win or I learn. That mindset, if you just install that, the earlier you install that, the earlier you'll reach a point where, like, all your success and all your wins will compound, and the losses won't even feel like losses. They'll just feel like lessons the whole way. And I think that's the most important thing. I would love to encourage people to do that in their life more. I think the world would be, well, like, dare I say, a better place. I think some people would do some pretty bad shit. um, but
True.
to the right people, to get that message to the right people, and hopefully whoever this reaches, like, hopefully that lands to them. Like, take that risk, because you either win or you learn. And so I just want people to actually fucking do that. To be honest with you, like do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your future family, do it for your ancestors, do it for the whole world, because you never know where that might end up and what solution you might create down the line that could actually change everything. So that's what I would say. Be my billboard.
That's so cool. I think I really appreciate you coming on and just chatting with me today, Dan. I think the biggest kind of personal takeaway, kind of from all of our discussions, this is maybe just a personal thing as well, as like, live a life that when you get to the end of it, you have like a crazy story worth telling. If you have a story worth telling from whatever risk you take, whatever it is that you do, whatever lesson you learn, it's worth it. You're building yourself, you're building your business, you're building your character. You have crazy stories to tell. Like, that's a huge part of the goal, especially when you can then share that with other people in a way that helps them to see what's possible. That's when crazy stuff starts to happen. And I think that's what I've seen you manufacture for other people. And you've talked about the energy that you bring, that people feel that they're just changed when they interact with you. I've definitely felt that. So I really appreciate you taking some time, sharing some knowledge. I really hope that other people get something valuable from this too, because I know I got something valuable from it. So I really appreciate it, man. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up and I let you get on your flight?
Yeah, they're probably going to be cooling in a minute. Nah, dude, I just appreciate you having me on. Appreciate you letting me, yeah, take this from the airport. It was really fun. Like, considering I had like 2 hours sleep, 2.5 hours sleep, I feel energized off this. Yeah, it came out good. I think it came out good, all things considered. Sometimes when you're a bit sleep deprived, the conversation goes even better. But yeah, I just appreciate you having me on,
It's
dude,
true.
and appreciate everything you're doing. Yeah, just keep this thing going. Like what I would just say to you, like, one man to man, like, you got to be one of the guys that keeps this shit going, no matter what. Like, there's gonna be times probably where you're like, oh fuck, I can't be fucked, or like, oh, it's hard to source guests, or like, I don't know, shit happens. But yeah, just keep it going, dude, because you got a good way about you. You're a natural salesman. Like, I know obviously you're asking questions, but like, that's what a good salesman does. The marketing and sales experience is paying off, and yeah, dude, just appreciate you having me and asking such thoughtful questions. It was a blast. I had a really good time.